He was good at this, better than anyone knew. The slow fade, the gradual cooling, the way he could take something warm and make it distant without anyone being able to point to exactly what had happened. Not cruelty, never cruelty, just a series of small retreats that added up to an exit. He'd done it with friends, with partners, with people who loved him carefully and well. And each time, standing in the quiet after, he told himself the same thing. It was the right call. It wasn't working. It would have ended anyway. But there was always a moment, brief, honest, quickly buried, where he knew. He ended it first, before they could, and that was the whole point. There is a specific kind of person who lives like this. They are not cold. In fact, they are often the warmest people you'll meet. They listen, they show up, they give generously, time, attention, care. But they give it from a specific distance, and that distance never closes. You can feel them with you. You can also feel them somehow already gone, like they arrived with a return ticket and you just don't know the date. They are wonderful in the middle of things, but they are never quite at the beginning, and they always manage the ending. People around them feel it without being able to name it. Something is being withheld, something just out of reach, something that would make it real. And the person doing it, they know. They know exactly where the line is. They have been maintaining that line for so long it feels like them, like a natural border, like skin. Psychologists call this a dismissive avoidant attachment style, which sounds clinical, detached, like a category, but what it actually describes is a very specific kind of pain. A person who learned very early that closeness was dangerous, not in the way danger usually announces itself, more quietly, through disappointment, through unpredictability, through reaching and finding nothing there. Some children grow up with parents who were not consistently present, not absent, present and absent, warm and cold, available and unreachable, and the child cannot predict which version will show up. So they do the only logical thing. They stop needing. They train themselves out of wanting. They learn that self-sufficiency is the only reliable thing, and they get very good at it. So good that by adulthood, the self-sufficiency doesn't feel like protection anymore. It feels like identity. I'm just someone who doesn't need much. I'm independent. I'm fine alone. These are not lies exactly. They are the story a nervous system tells itself about a wall it built so long ago it forgot it was a choice. There is something else that happens. Connection starts to feel threatening, not because the person is bad or broken, but because intimacy requires surrender. It requires letting someone see the parts you've been managing, letting someone close enough to leave. And leaving in the body's memory is what people do. So the unconscious math becomes, if I stay at this distance, if I manage this carefully, if I keep this much space, I control when it ends, which means it can never end the way it ended before, without warning, without preparation, while I was still hoping. Here is what this costs. The person becomes expert at connection that doesn't quite connect. They have many people who care about them, and they are, at some fundamental level, alone in a way none of those people can reach. Not because the people aren't good enough, but because the last mile is never traveled. Some of them begin to confuse the wall with preference. I like being alone. I don't need people. This isn't wrong, but it isn't the whole truth. The whole truth is, I need people, and I have learned not to trust that needing. And so the person lives in a permanent contradiction, wanting connection, dismantling connection, wanting it again. Each cycle confirming the original belief, it doesn't last, because they made sure it didn't. But here is what the pattern cannot see from inside itself. The thing being protected is not weakness, it is the capacity for real connection, intact, present, waiting, buried under the management and the distance and the careful retreats. But there. The wall was never the person. It was what the person built when the person needed protecting. And walls, even very old ones, can have doors. If someone stays long enough, if the person wants them to. If this was about you, you are not someone who cannot love. You are someone who learned to love from a distance because distance was once the only safe place to love from. That place made sense. And somewhere in the person who still reaches, still tries, still shows up even while preparing to leave, there is someone who already knows the distance doesn't have to be permanent. It just has to be chosen differently, one step at a time, toward. There is something that people with this pattern rarely admit, even to themselves. They are often the first to notice when someone is pulling away, the first to feel the shift in temperature, the slight change in response time, the message that was warmer yesterday than today, because they have been tracking exits their whole lives. They know every sign. And when they feel someone preparing to leave, even if that person isn't, they begin to help. They create the distance, they accelerate the ending, they make it official before it becomes real. And in doing so, they lose things that were never going to leave. People who would have stayed, people who were choosing them consistently and would have kept choosing them. Lost not to abandonment, but to the fear of it. That is the deepest cost of this pattern, not the people who left, but the ones who didn't until they were made to.